What do you do when the world you've built crumbles in a single night? For Ethan Caldwell, the answer was nothing, because nothing could undo the sting of his family's rejection or the knife of his brother's betrayal. At 22, he stood at the edge of his old life, staring into an abyss of his own making. Ethan had always been the black sheep of the Caldwell family, the beta in a lineage of type A overachievers. His father, a stern corporate lawyer in Portland, Oregon, demanded perfection. His mother, a socialite with a smile as sharp as her tongue, expected compliance. His older brother, Nathan, was the golden child captain of the lacrosse team, valedictorian, and heir to the Caldwell legacy. Ethan, he was the dreamer, the artist, the one who'd rather sketch the skyline than climb the corporate ladder. His rebellion wasn't loud graffiti tags on abandoned warehouses, late-night poetry slams and dive bars, but it was enough to earn his father's disdain. "You're wasting your potential," his father would growl, his voice heavy with disappointment. Ethan didn't care. He had his art, his freedom, and his best friend, Lucas Hayes. Lucas was everything Ethan wasn't: grounded, kind, and unshakably loyal. They'd met in high school, two misfits in a sea of preppy conformity. Lucas, with his tousled blonde hair and warm hazel eyes, had a quiet strength that balanced Ethan's wildfire spirit. They'd spent countless nights sneaking onto rooftops, sharing secrets under the stars. Lucas was the one person who saw Ethan's chaos and loved it, not judged it. But Ethan never dared to hope for more. Not when he was a mess. And Lucas was, well, Lucas. It was the summer after college graduation when everything unraveled. Ethan's secret one he'd buried deep, even from himself, came to light in the worst way possible. He'd been at a bar, a little drunk, a little reckless, when he kissed a guy. Just a fleeting moment, a spark of courage in a haze of whiskey. But someone saw. Someone always sees. By morning, the photo was everywhere: his teammates' group chat, his brother's phone, his parents' inbox. "Faggot," Nathan spat when Ethan got home, the words slicing through the air like a blade. His parents didn't yell. They didn't need to. Their silence was louder, their eyes cold as they handed him a suitcase and a one-way bus ticket. "You're no son of ours," his father said, voice flat. Ethan didn't beg. He didn't cry. He just left. What does it feel like to lose everything in a single moment? How do you rebuild when the people who were supposed to love you turn their backs? For Ethan, the answer lay in the one person who stayed. Lucas found him at the bus station, sitting on a bench with his sketchbook in his lap, drawing nothing. "You didn't call," Lucas said, his voice soft but firm. Ethan couldn't meet his eyes. "Didn't think you'd want to see me," he muttered. Lucas sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders brushed. "I'm here, aren't I?" he said. And in that moment, Ethan felt something he hadn't in years: hope. They drove to Seattle, to Lucas's tiny apartment above a coffee shop. It was a new city, a new start, but Ethan carried his old wounds like shadows. He crashed on Lucas's couch, sketching furiously to keep the pain at bay. Lucas didn't push, didn't pry. He just made coffee every morning, left art supplies on the table, and listened when Ethan was ready to talk. But the city wasn't kind to Ethan. Seattle's art scene was cutthroat, and his reputation as a troubled kid followed him. Galleries rejected his work. Old friends ghosted him. And then there was Nathan. Nathan, who'd always been the perfect son, wasn't done twisting the knife. He'd started a smear campaign, spreading lies about Ethan's instability to mutual contacts in the art world. A gallery owner in Belltown flat out told Ethan, "I don't work with liabilities." The betrayal burned deeper than his parents' rejection. Nathan wasn't just family but Ethan's hero, the brother he'd once idolized. How do you forgive someone who takes your dreams and grinds them to dust? Yet Lucas was there, steady as ever. One night, when Ethan's anger boiled over and he punched a wall, Lucas didn't flinch. He bandaged Ethan's hand, his touch gentle, and said, "You're not alone in this." Ethan wanted to believe him, but the weight of his past was crushing. Could he trust Lucas not to leave? 2. Could he trust himself to be enough? The turning point came at a small art show in Fremont, one Lucas had convinced Ethan to enter. Ethan's passe raw, chaotic painting of a boy breaking free from chains caught the eye of a local curator. "It's powerful," she said. "It's real." For the first time, Ethan felt seen, not as a failure, but as an artist. Lucas stood beside him, beaming, and when their hands brushed, Ethan didn't pull away. The spark was there, undeniable, but so was the fear. What if loving Lucas meant losing him? 2. Ethan's heart was a battlefield, torn between fear and longing. The art show had given him a flicker of purpose, but it also stirred something deeper, a question he wasn't ready to answer. What did it mean to want Lucas in a way that wasn't just friendship? Seattle's autumn was relentless, rain hammering the city like it was trying to wash away Ethan's doubts. He and Lucas fell into a rhythm, mornings sketching in the coffee shop downstairs, afternoons wandering Pike Place Market, evenings debating movies on Lucas's worn-out couch. Lucas had a way of making the world feel softer, safer. He'd laugh at Ethan's sarcastic quips, challenge his cynicism, and leave notes on his sketchbook. "Keep going. Genius." But every touch, every lingering glance, sent Ethan spiraling. Was this real? Or was he projecting his desperation onto the one person who hadn't abandoned him? One evening, as they walked along the waterfront, the Space Needle glowing in the distance, Ethan stopped. The air was crisp, the city alive with possibility. "Why do you stay?" he asked, voice raw. Lucas tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "Because you're worth it," he said simply. Ethan's chest tightened. Worth it? After everything, his family's rejection, Nathan's betrayal, his own self-destruction, how could anyone think that? The question haunted him as weeks turned into months. Ethan's art was gaining traction, thanks to the Fremont curator. She connected him with a gallery in Capitol Hill, and soon, his paintings were selling. But success didn't erase the past. Nathan's shadow loomed larger than ever. Ethan learned through a mutual friend that Nathan was now working for a major art dealer in New York, using his influence to blackball Ethan's work on the East Coast. The betrayal wasn't just personal, Anna Maria, it was professional, calculated, cruel. Why did Nathan hate him so much? Was it jealousy, shame, or something deeper? Ethan's anger festered, but Lucas was his anchor. One night, after a gallery opening, they ended up on the roof of Lucas's building, a bottle of cheap wine between them. The city sparkled below, and Ethan's guard was down. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted, staring at the stars. "Do what?" Lucas asked, his voice gentle. Ethan's throat closed. "Feel this. For you." The words hung in the air, fragile and terrifying. Lucas didn't speak, just reached for Ethan's hand. The warmth of his touch was an answer, but it wasn't enough. Ethan pulled away. "I'll ruin you," he whispered. Lucas smiled, undeterred. "Try me." What does it mean to love someone when you're afraid of breaking them? How do you let go of the past when it's still hunting you? Ethan didn't have answers, but Lucas's faith in him was starting to feel like a lifeline. The gallery in Capitol Hill offered Ethan a solo show, a chance to prove himself. He poured everything into it, his pain, his hope, his unspoken love for Lucas. The centerpiece was a massive canvas, a self-portrait in fragments, pieced together with vibrant colors. It was raw, vulnerable, and terrifyingly honest. Lucas helped him hang it, their hands brushing as they adjusted the frame. "This is you," Lucas said, his voice thick with pride. Ethan wanted to kiss him right then, but fear held him back. What if this was a mistake? What if he wasn't ready? The night of the show, the gallery was packed. Ethan's heart raced as strangers praised his work, but his eyes kept finding Lucas, who stood quietly in the corner, watching him shine. Then, a familiar face appeared in the crowd, Nathan. Ethan froze. His brother looked polished, smug, like he owned the room. "Nice little hobby you've got," Nathan said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Too bad it won't last." The words cut deep, but it was Nathan's next move that shattered Ethan. He overheard Nathan whispering to a critic, "He's unstable. Don't invest in him." Ethan's vision blurred with rage. How far would Nathan go to destroy him? The confrontation with Nathan lit a fuse in Ethan. He stormed out of the gallery, rain soaking his jacket as he paced the slick streets of Capitol Hill. Lucas found him, of course, his umbrella useless against the downpour. "Talk to me," Lucas said, his voice steady despite the chaos. Ethan's fists clenched. "He's ruining me," he spat. "My own brother." Lucas didn't flinch. "Then fight back," he said. "Not with fists. With your art. With who you are." But who was Ethan? Really? A reject? A failure? Or someone worth fighting for? Back at the apartment, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sketched until dawn, pouring his rage into jagged lines and bold colors. Lucas stayed up with him, brewing coffee, offering quiet encouragement. By morning, Ethan had a new paisa defiant, abstract explosion of reds and blacks. A middle finger to Nathan's sabotage. Lucas looked at it and grinned. "This is you fighting," he said. Ethan's heart stuttered. Lucas really saw him, and it was both terrifying and exhilarating. The solo show was a success, despite Nathan's interference. Critics raved about Ethan's raw talent, and collectors started bidding. But the victory felt hollow. Nathan's betrayal wasn't just about art, it was personal. A rejection of Ethan's very identity. Ethan had never told anyone the full story of that night at the bar, the night his family disowned him. It wasn't just the kiss. It was what came after, his father's ultimatum to fix himself, his mother's tears, Nathan's disgust. Ethan had internalized their shame, and it was poisoning him. One afternoon, Lucas dragged him to a quiet beach on Puget Sound. The waves crashed gently, and the air smelled of salt and freedom. "You're carrying too much," Lucas said, tossing a pebble into the water. "Let it go?" Ethan wanted to. But how? "They're my family," he said, voice breaking. Lucas turned to him, eyes fierce. "Family isn't blood. It's the people who choose you." And then, before Ethan could think, Lucas kissed him. It was soft, tentative, but it set Ethan's world on fire. He kissed back, desperate, like he'd been starving for this his whole life. When they pulled apart, Ethan was trembling. "What are we doing?" he whispered. Lucas smiled, figuring it out. What does it mean to choose love over fear? How do you rebuild trust when your own blood has broken it? Ethan was starting to believe Lucas might be the answer. But Nathan wasn't done. A week later, Ethan got an email from a major gallery in San Francisco. They'd been interested in his work until Nathan intervened. "We heard about your issues," the email read. Ethan's stomach dropped. Issues. The word was a dog whistle for his sexuality, his past, his pain. He wanted to scream, to confront Nathan, to burn everything down. Instead, he showed the email to Lucas. "What do I do?" he asked, voice hollow. Lucas read it, his jaw tight. "You keep going," he said. "You don't let him win." Ethan threw himself into his art, creating pieces that were bolder, angrier, more honest. He started posting them online, bypassing the gatekeepers Nathan had poisoned. His work went viral, shared by queer artists and activists who saw their own struggles in his brushstrokes. Ethan's inbox filled with messages from strangers. "Your art saved me. You're not alone." For the first time, he felt part of something bigger than himself. But the closer he got to Lucas, the more he feared losing him. Love was a risk he'd never taken. Could he be brave enough now? Ethan's life was a paradox. His art was soaring. But his heart was a tightrope. Lucas was his constant, his safe harbor. But every step toward love felt like a leap into the unknown. They hadn't labeled what they were not yet, but their nights were filled with stolen kisses, shared laughter, and quiet moments that made Ethan's chest ache with possibility. Yet Nathan's shadow lingered, a reminder that happiness could be snatched away. One evening, as they cooked dinner in Lucas's cramped kitchen, Ethan's phone buzzed. It was a text from Nathan. "You're embarrassing yourself. Stop." Ethan's hands shook as he showed it to Lucas. "He's obsessed," Lucas said, anger flashing in his eyes. "Why can't he let you live?" Ethan didn't have an answer. Nathan's hatred was a mystery wrapped in pain, and it was eating him alive. Lucas took his hand. "You don't have to face him alone," he said. Ethan nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. Could he confront his brother without losing himself? The opportunity came sooner than expected. A major art festival in Portland invited Ethan to showcase his work. It was a homecoming, a chance to reclaim his city. But it also meant facing Nathan, who was rumored to be attending. Ethan almost declined, but Lucas wouldn't let him. "This is your moment," Lucas said. "Show them who you are." Ethan agreed, but fear coiled in his gut. What if Nathan ruined this, too? What if he wasn't strong enough? They drove to Portland, the city a mix of nostalgia and pain. The festival was electric, with artists and collectors buzzing around Ethan's booth. His paintings vibrant, raw, unapologetic drew crowds. Lucas was by his side, his presence a shield against the world. Then Nathan appeared, his face a mask of false charm. "You're doing well," he said, but his eyes were cold. Ethan braced himself. "What do you want?" he asked. Nathan smirked. "Just checking on my little brother." The words were a taunt, a reminder of every wound he'd inflicted. Lucas stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "Leave him alone, Nathan." The air crackled with tension. Nathan laughed, but it was hollow. "You think you can fix him?" he said to Lucas. "He's broken." Ethan's heart pounded, but something shifted inside him. He wasn't broken. Not anymore. "I'm not your project," he told Nathan, his voice steady. "I'm not your shame." Nathan's smile faltered, and for the first time, Ethan saw a flicker of doubt in his brother's eyes. What does it take to stand up to your past? How do you claim your truth when the world wants to silence it? Ethan was learning, one painful step at a time. The festival was a triumph. Ethan's work sold out, and a local critic called him a voice for the voiceless. But the real victory was personal. For the first time, Ethan felt like he was enough not for his family, but for himself. Lucas was there when he broke down afterward, tears mixing with rain as they stood in a quiet alley. "I'm proud of you," Lucas whispered, pulling him close. Ethan clung to him, the weight of his past lifting just a little. Back in Seattle, their relationship deepened. They were no longer just friends, they were partners, navigating love with all its messiness. Ethan was still scared, but he was learning to trust. Lucas wasn't going anywhere. One night, as they lay in bed, Lucas traced the scars on Ethan's knuckles. "You're stronger than you know," he said. Ethan smiled, his heart full. "Because of you," he replied. The seasons changed, and so did Ethan. His art was now a beacon for others, a testament to survival and resilience. But the past wasn't done with him. Nathan's silence after the festival was ominous, a calm before a storm. Ethan knew his brother wasn't finished. People like Nathan never were. But he wasn't the same scared kid anymore. He had Lucas, his art, and a growing community of supporters who saw his truth. One winter morning, a letter arrived. It was from Nathan, handwritten, a rarity in their digital age. "I'm sorry," it began, but the words felt hollow. Nathan claimed he'd been protecting the family, that Ethan's coming out had shamed them. But he also admitted to his own struggles, pressure to be perfect, fear of failure. I was wrong, he wrote, but I don't know how to fix it. Ethan read it over and over, torn between anger and pity. Could he forgive Nathan? Did he even want to? He showed the letter to Lucas, who read it in silence. What do you want to do? Lucas asked. Ethan didn't know. Forgiveness felt like surrender, but holding on to hate was a cage. They talked late into the night, Lucas listening as Ethan unraveled years of pain. You don't owe him anything, Lucas said, but you owe yourself peace. Those words stuck with Ethan, a seed of clarity in his chaos. He decided to write back, not for Nathan, but for himself. In his letter, Ethan poured out his truth, the hurt, the betrayal, but also the strength he'd found. I'm not your shame, he wrote. I'm my own person, and I'm enough. He didn't expect a response, and he didn't get one. But sending the letter felt like closing a door, one he'd been afraid to touch for years. Ethan's art continued to flourish. He and Lucas moved into a bigger apartment, a space filled with light and color. They built a life together, messy, imperfect, but real. Ethan's paintings became a bridge to others, especially young queer artists who saw themselves in his work. He started mentoring, sharing his story to help others find their own. The pain of his past didn't vanish, but it no longer defined him. One spring evening, Ethan and Lucas returned to the park where they'd first admitted their feelings. They sat on the same weathered bench, the air warm with promise. Ethan took Lucas's hand, his heart steady. I love you, he said, the words no longer scary. Lucas smiled, his eyes bright. I love you, too. It was a simple moment, but it held everything: pain, healing, and a future they'd built together. What does it mean to find love after loss? How do you become whole when the world tried to break you? For Ethan, the answer was clear. Love wasn't just given, it was chosen, fought for, and cherished. And with Lucas by his side, he knew he'd never be alone again.